Have you ever looked at your bank account and thought, okay, I know I didn't buy anything crazy this month, so why does it feel like my money just evaporated? Like you didn't book a vacation. You didn't buy a new TV. You were not popping bottles every weekend. And yet somehow you're sitting there thinking, wait, where did the money go? You pull up your budget, you scroll through the categories. Rent, normal. Groceries, a little high but fine. Eating out, meh. Nothing looks that bad. But the money's still gone. And that feeling, that quiet confusion, almost frustration, that's not because you're bad with money. It's because there's a money leak happening that almost no budget is designed to catch. And once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it. My name is Ryan, and I spend way too much time thinking about why people with decent incomes still feel broke. If you're someone who earns money, budgets your money, but still feels like you're not getting ahead, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Because today, we're talking about the quiet money leak no budget ever catches, and why fixing this one thing often matters more than cutting coffee or skipping takeout. Here's the thing. Most people think money leaks look obvious. They imagine impulse shopping, luxury purchases, bad spending habits. But that's not how it actually works. The real leak, the one draining your financial progress, is structural, not reckless. Here's what most people don't realize. Your budget is great at tracking where money goes, but it's terrible at tracking what money fails to become. Let me explain. According to data from the Federal Reserve, the median American household earning between $70,000 and $100,000 saves less than 6% of their income. Not because they don't want to save. Not because they're irresponsible, but because their money gets used up before it ever has a chance to grow. And this is where it gets really interesting. Most budgets are built around monthly survival, not long-term momentum. You budget rent, you budget food, you budget subscriptions. But almost no one budgets for the opportunity cost of money. An opportunity cost is where wealth quietly dies. Let's say you're 30 years old. You make $75,000 a year. After taxes, benefits, everything, you've got about $4,500 a month hitting your checking account. Your budget says you have $300 left over. Cool. That feels responsible. But here's the problem. That $300 doesn't just represent $300. If invested at a historical 7% return, that $300 per month becomes about $365,000 by age 60, nearly $600,000 by age 65. So when that $300 gets absorbed by life, higher grocery, slightly nicer apartment, convenience spending, that's not a $300 decision. That's a $500,000 leak. And no budgeting app will ever show you that. Let me slow this down, because this is the part almost everyone skips past too quickly. When people talk about money leaks, they picture something dramatic. They picture a shopping addiction, or gambling, or someone wildly irresponsible. And that framing is comforting, because it lets you think, well, that's not me. I'm not doing that. But that's exactly why the real leak is so dangerous. It doesn't look dramatic. It looks normal. It looks responsible. It looks like adulthood. Here's the thing most people don't realize. The biggest threat to your financial future isn't overspending, it's under-converting income into assets. Read that again. It's not how much you spend. It's how little of what you earn actually becomes something that can grow. Most budgets are designed to answer one question: can I make it to next month? They are not designed to answer the more important question: is my income turning into long-term leverage? And because of that, you can follow your budget perfectly and still slowly sabotage your future without realizing it. Let's walk through what this actually looks like in real life. Imagine two people. Same age, same city, same income, let's say $80,000 a year. Person A is bad with money. They don't budget. They eat out too much. They buy random stuff on Amazon. Everyone looks at them and says, yeah, obviously that person is struggling. Person B is good with money. They budget. They track expenses. They don't splurge much. They pay bills on time. They feel responsible. Here's the uncomfortable part. Person B often ends up just as stuck financially, sometimes worse. Why? Because person B's money disappears quietly and systematically, not recklessly. Rent increases by $300 when the lease renews. Car payment creeps up because they deserve something reliable. Insurance costs rise. Utilities edge higher. Groceries cost more, but hey, inflation, right? None of these feel like bad decisions. In fact, each one feels justified. And that's the trap. According to Bureau of Labor Statistics data, the average household increases spending by about 2 to 3% per year, even when income stays flat. Not because they choose to, but because costs normalize upward. This is what economists call expense drift. Your budget adjusts, your lifestyle adjusts, your expectations adjust, but your future net worth does not. And here's where it gets really interesting. When income goes up, this problem gets worse, not better. People assume earning more money solves money problems. Statistically, it doesn't. A study by Princeton University found that once basic needs are met, increases in income mostly increase spending, not savings, unless savings are automated. That means a raise doesn't fix the leak. It just pours more water into the bucket. Let's talk about the bucket. Picture your income as water flowing in every month. Rent, food, transportation, those are holes you expect. You plan for them. But there's another hole. A small one, barely noticeable. That hole is money that could have become capital but didn't. And budgets don't show it, because budgets don't track what could have happened. They only track what did. Let's put numbers on this, because this is where the illusion breaks. Say you earn $80,000 a year. After taxes, you take home about $5,000 a month. Your budget looks like this. Rent, $1,800 car, plus insurance, $600 food, $700 utility, plus phone, $300 subscriptions, MSE, $300, fund money, $500, that leaves $800. On paper, that looks solid. Most people would feel proud of that. But now watch what actually happens. Your rent goes up to $2,050 next year. That's just the market. Your grocery bill becomes $850 because prices rise. You add a few subscriptions, another $50. You spend a bit more socially because life gets busy. Now your extra is $400. Still not terrible, right? Here's the part no one shows you. That missing $400 isn't just $400. If invested monthly over 30 years at a conservative 7% return, that $400 becomes roughly $490,000. That's not a budgeting issue. That's a structural wealth issue. And almost nobody frames it this way. Most financial advice tells you to cut back, but cutting back feels punitive, and humans resist punishment. The better question is, why is my income failing to turn into ownership? Ownership of stocks, ownership of businesses, ownership of assets that work while you sleep. Here's what most people don't realize. You don't fall behind financially in big moments. You fall behind in boring ones. The lease renewal you didn't negotiate. The car upgrade that felt reasonable. The convenience spending that reduced friction in your life. None of these trigger alarm bells, but together, they quietly reroute your income away from growth. And psychologically, this is brutal. Because it creates a sense of helplessness. People think, I'm doing everything right. Why am I not getting ahead? That frustration is real. And it's valid. Because the system rewards consumption stability, not capital accumulation. Everything in modern life is optimized to keep you comfortable enough not to question it. Here's an uncomfortable statistic. According to the Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances, over 50% of households earning more than $75,000 could not cover a $1,000 emergency without borrowing or selling something. Let that sink in. These are not low-income households. These are not reckless people. These are people whose money never had a chance to compound. And that's the quiet leak. It's not what you bought. It's what you never built. Budgets feel productive because they create control. They give you certainty. They reduce anxiety. A control over spending is not the same thing as control over outcomes. You can be perfectly in control of a system that leads nowhere. Think about it like a treadmill. You're not failing because you're lazy. You're failing because the machine is designed to keep you in place. Every time your income rises, life presents a slightly nicer version of normal. A better apartment. A safer car. More convenience. Less friction. Your brain says yes, because saying no feels like deprivation even when it's not. And because these changes happen gradually, they never feel like decisions. They feel like inevitabilities. That's why people are shocked when they finally run the numbers and realize they're 10 or 15 years into their career with very little to show for it. Not because they didn't earn, because they didn't convert. And this is where I want to challenge a belief early, because it matters. Most people believe saving is something you do after life happens. That belief is backward. Real saving, investing is something you do before life expands to fill the space. If you wait until expenses stabilize, they never will. Life always finds a way to absorb what's available. This isn't pessimism. It's human behavior. Economist Richard Thaler, who won a Nobel Prize for behavioral economics, showed that people are dramatically more successful at saving when increases happen automatically and invisibly. In other words, the moment you see the money, it's already too late. And budgets don't solve this, because budgets assume rational actors making conscious choices. You are not a rational actor. Neither am I. We are emotional, tired, convenience-seeking humans navigating a system designed to monetize ease. That's why this leak survives every budgeting method. You can track every dollar and still miss the most important one, the dollar that never got invested. And the longer this goes unnoticed, the more painful it becomes to fix, because early dollars matter more than later ones. The first $10,000 invested at 25 is worth more than the next $20,000 invested at 40. Time does the heavy lifting, not effort. That's why this leak is so dangerous. It steals time, and you don't feel it happening. You don't feel time slipping away when expenses normalize. You feel fine, until suddenly you don't. Until you realize you're working just as hard, earning more than ever, and still feel behind. That's not because you failed. It's because no one taught you to look for the leak that doesn't show up on a spreadsheet. The leak where money quietly stops becoming momentum. And once you see that, you realize the problem isn't spend discipline. It's structural priority. Where your money goes first determines what your life looks like later. And most people never choose that order. It gets chosen for them slowly, quietly, and very efficiently. So here's the real question. If the leak is psychological, structural, and invisible to most budgets, how do you actually fix it without making your life miserable? The answer is uncomfortable but simple. You stop relying on willpower. Willpower collapses under stress, fatigue, and distraction, which is basically modern life. Any financial plan that depends on you constantly making the right choice will eventually fail. That's why the solution isn't discipline. It's design. You fix the leak by paying your future self first. Investing cannot be something you do with leftovers, because life will always find a way to use whatever is available. Automation payroll deductions, automatic transfers, auto investing removes the decision entirely. You don't feel deprived because you never see the money. Start small. A $100 automatic investment isn't about the amount, it's about identity. It tells your brain, I'm someone who invests. Once that identity exists, growth gets easier. Next, set lifestyle boundaries instead of micromanaging budgets. Decide how much income funds your life, then make trade-offs consciously. Track net worth, not just spending. Net worth tells you if your life is actually moving forward. The goal isn't perfection, it's direction. When your future gets paid first, money stops disappearing and starts working. If this helped you see money differently, subscribe for more. I'll see you in the next one.